Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It is part 2 of dating advice from none other than your favorite non-professional. This guest with us tonight is Logan Burton. Logan Burton, introduce yourself to the crowd.
Hello, I'm Logan Burton, lifelong friend of Kyle, and I followed his romantic escapades pretty closely. I myself am not as romantically accomplished as him, but I am a lover of women. and
All right.
And yes, I also have a YouTube channel. I talk about music and books. That's what I'm into, but I'm also into dating. So Kyle is going to lead a nice discussion on tips and tricks to get ahead of the game. So Kyle, you got some abracadabras?
Oh, you know, I got things up my sleeves, in my socks, in my pockets. We got a channel. He's got some awesome things if you're into music reviews and book reviews and just getting deep into all that fun stuff. Also, check out the link in the description to my first video. I made that over a year ago, back in quarantine, so I kind of look like a caveman, but hey, I gave some really fire advice, and because of it, I'm sure somebody out there is happier than they were then.
I thought it was good. It was good advice.
It was good.
I thought it was pretty relevant, even because you filmed that before COVID.
Well, I filmed it in May.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, so It was, 2 months in.
I thought it was still pretty good.
It was.
Yeah.
It was fire.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too prideful, but it was pretty good. And a little secret, I knew what I was gonna say, but I just kind of spit it out. You know, I sat down at the table and I just kind of spit it out onto my plate, and
which is what
and
most of dating is.
That's right.
Improvising.
That's right.
And some of us are better at doing it than others.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, Logan and I are both non-professionals, but we definitely have our fair share of experiences.
That's right.
Failures, successes.
Yeah.
Man, we've done it all. So thank you for tuning in. We got a good slate for you tonight.
Yes, we do.
First things first, though, I do want to give a shout out to Tylen Nelson. He left some advice on my last video a year ago, and he's also a non-dating expert, so give credit where it's due. And he wanted to share a few things with us. So first thing, people are just people. I think sometimes we forget that. I think sometimes we're like, man, they're so perfect.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
They're out of,
Mm-hmm.
I can't date that because they're on a higher tier than me.
I've been thinking about that a lot because I feel like when you start looking at people like they're on a higher tier, you start becoming a people pleaser, right? You know, and I've been trying to work on not relying on others' praise and attention to feel good about myself. I feel like that's kind of a symptom when you when you look at somebody that you're really into and you want to date. I think you need to get rid of that as soon as possible to not look at them through rose-tinted glasses. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I've suffered through it before, but that's some great advice. Look at people are weak. People are really weak. And that's a good thing, though. We're all weak, so why put other people on a pedestal?
Yeah.
Right.
AJR was really onto something when he said his song "Weak." I'm weak.
Well, AJR is trash.
And he said, "What's wrong with that?" Right? There's nothing wrong with that. But it's very true, and I mentioned this in the first video, but I think dating apps like Mutual and Tinder and Bumble.
Yeah.
I know you've used some of those. I've used some of those. I feel like they just exemplify that that issue that people are so unobtainable.
They amplify the physical attraction over everything else. Because usually, I won't lie. There's a lot of attractive people on Tinder and Mutual and Bumble, but I feel awful about myself when I don't get matched with them. And I don't get a high match rate with them. So, yeah, but those people, they're probably a lot less interesting than we think they are, because maybe they posted a good picture of themselves at the beach, but there's a lot more to the surface. So.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. So there's an very interesting question, I guess, aspect of dating that I've actually gotten a lot of questions about. Like my friends and I have talked about it, and that's when, sticking with the whole, social media and, out of person interactions. Like, how do you act with someone that you're interested in or you're dating with when you're not in person? Like, like when you're texting them, calling them, like, how do you keep a stable communication that way, but like keep the relationship healthy, Yeah. Because sometimes you come on too strong. Sometimes people are more inclined to, I guess, get to know the person more over text. Like, I know a lot of people like text a lot. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's an interesting question, because I think I'm someone that prefers calling people, through phone, but it's not very traditional to like call people that you'd like, either met with online or like even in person. Like, I think telephone, calling somebody has been reduced to very much like a business sort of transaction. You call somebody if you want to get something done, right? But I think I'm a big proponent of calling people, because you can get a lot more said and done than with texting. Because if you think about it, like if you text somebody all day, that's like by word count alone, that's only like a 10-minute, 20-minute conversation, So
that's very true.
I do like telephoning people, but texting, I still think it's pretty valuable. But I think it's I don't think you should spend most of your time like getting to know somebody over text. I think it's only gets you so far,
Yeah. I definitely agree. Because you can't really, you don't see their body language, right, when you're texting them. You don't hear their tone of voice. You don't, know their circumstances, right? And so it's kind of really hard to tell and really get to know the person. So I too really like, keeping texting to a minimum and then really talking to them in person or over the phone. And it just, I don't know, I just found that works a lot better than texting face to face.
I also think like dealing with the stress of like, are they going to text me back or
something?
Ooh,
that's the worst, man.
It's like, I remember...
Plays mind games on you.
So I'm going to DC in a couple weeks. Shout out to that vlog that you're going to see in a couple of weeks. But I have a friend living in DC, and I texted her. I'm slightly romantically interested in her. And, I texted her, and she replied pretty promptly and said, like, hey, we should hang out in D.C. I'm like, cool, D.C.'s a nice big city. I could,
do a lot of things, go a lot of places.
Yeah, go a lot of places. And, but she hasn't replied at all. It's been like 3 days since I texted her. Initially that was kind of disheartening, but, it's like, whatever. But, like, for that one day where it's like, is she going to text me back? Like, that sucks, So, I think a lot of texting isn't as instantaneous as we think it is. Not everyone's going to always be available. So, if you're somebody that wants to, be pretty direct, I would just avoid texting, just call them, obviously when they're available, when you think they're available. So, stuff like that. So,
yeah, absolutely. I second that, right? I'm on board with that.
Yeah, Plus, it's also really stupid. You know how guys are like, I'm gonna like not text her for like 3 hours just to like give.
Yeah, it's just like a game. Yeah, like they purposefully don't respond for a while.
If you're thinking about that, then it means you do have time to text them back.
Exactly.
And you're just trying to like appear more,
hard to get.
Hard to get. Yeah.
Like you're busy. You're not as desperate, or you're not as needy. You're just like, oh, like I don't need you. Yeah. Like responding quickly sometimes comes off as being like too eager,
too needy.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a few takeaways that we can kind of see from this. I think you need to spend more time in person getting to know them as opposed to texting so much. You need to not play those texting games, and also don't worry about it. Honestly, like they're living life, you know. It's not the end of the world if they take, I don't know, 30 minutes, an hour to respond, you know. Like don't worry about it. Just like continue to live your life, you know.
Don't wait for text.
Yeah, just don't sit around and wait.
Yeah.
Like don't worry about response times. Also, I'm a big believer in phone calls, you know, like when you're asking them out or if you just want to talk, like phone calls are great. I never have I ever, you know, asked a girl out over text because, like, I don't know, I just feel like everyone does that nowadays, and like calling just like shows the extra step and like you actually care.
Yeah,
I
like that piece. I've either asked in person or I text them.
Yeah,
but it's like I text them out of like very, very logistical reasons, you know, like quick, let's get this done, you know. But I'll try that next time, you know. If there is a next time.
Do it. No, there definitely will be a next time.
I'll call them.
There will be a next time for everyone watching this video because this advice is gold, man.
Yeah. We could call this section "No Sliding into DMs."
Sliding into DMs.
Sliding into like just the, you know, the phone icon and Instagram. But do it with somebody you know. Don't do it with like a random influencer.
Go for the straight phone call. Skip the DM. Just straight phone call. What about video call? That'd be pretty ballsy.
That is a. You know, during COVID, I had this idea when I was using Mutual, probably more than before. I don't use it anymore. But I was thinking, like, with all the matches I tell, because, you know, people were like, have a Zoom date, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, what if I, like, do a talk show where every single new episode is a date that I had, and that was the show?
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, it was, but I don't want to, like, go through the mental angst going through Mutual again, feeling awful about myself, you know?
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
and we're not saying Mutual's, like, if you use Mutual, like, that's fine, but it's just like Mutual obviously hasn't worked out the best for Logan, and I mean I haven't had that much success on dating apps anyways, but to each their own. If it works for you, all the power to you.
Yeah,
but
I hear more failure stories, success stories.
Yeah, there's a lot of funny stories.
I don't think that's the problem with Mutual. It's just the people itself and how it's
absolutely.
Yeah. So.
People are always the problem.
Yes, because we're weak.
Because we're weak. AJR, we're weak. And what's wrong with that? Nothing's wrong with that. Okay, so going back to my first video, Tylen, he brought up another point. I'll read his words word for word. Actually, I'll just paraphrase him. He's talking about expectations on the first date. So we're moving away from social media, and we're actually on the first date. We're getting into it. Let's go. So he talks about how numerous girls have ghosted him after the first date because he didn't meet their expectations. Granted, he didn't quite know what their expectations were beforehand, and so there was a disconnect there where the girl was expecting something and he was expecting something, and it just didn't really go. So he was saying it's best to communicate what those are as soon as possible. How do you do that before the first date? Like do you straight?
I don't think you can.
Like do you straight up say this is what I'm expecting? I mean, I don't know.
Well, like it depends on like what expectations are. Like, do you mean like? Yeah, it's a weird question because like I know some people are just looking for friends with people of the opposite sex, which I understand, but I don't know why you use a dating app to do that. Because that's not the point.
Exactly.
Like I think it's good to talk like expectations with regards to like communications, like. But even then that's kind of a weird question. You know, you're not like, I expect you to text me every single hour. Yeah. You know, every breath you take, every step you make,
every move you make,
I will be stalking you. So,
thank you, Sting, for scaring women everywhere.
Yeah. But I do think it's like, you know, when you get ghosted, it's kind of it's a horrible feeling.
Oh, it sucks.
Absolutely horrible.
It's the worst.
Yeah, and I don't. That could be about expectations, but I don't know if like talking about like this is what I'm looking for will like solve that. Because I feel like, I honestly truly feel like that most of the ghostings that have happened in my life have been probably more physical than anything else. Like I'm not saying to catfish people on like mutual or anything, but I remember there was one date I had last June with a girl named Kate, and I really liked her. We hit it off through text, and you know, I made it to like the next step, which was like getting her phone number. You know, we're not just texting on a mutual exclusively. And you know, we set up a date, and it was a lunch date. We went at a Viennese restaurant. It went pretty well. Like, I didn't think there was any like red flags or anything. And she didn't seem like she was like too shy. Like, we got talking pretty well. But then she ghosted me pretty
pretty quick.
Remember when I told you about this?
Yeah,
like
I remember
year?
you telling me the story. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was really disappointed because she was like one of the few people on mutual that I'm like, I really like her. You know, I like her.
She had a connection with, and
yeah,
it was almost a success story. I mean, it was heading that way.
Yeah,
so.
But I don't know. Like, I sent her a text like saying like, hey, just like to know why you're ghosting me. Maybe that's not like the best move, but I was like thinking like, you know, what's the reason? And I could honestly be like, you know, I know I have weaknesses, but I don't know like what weaknesses I like showed immediately after that first day, because I don't think I did really anything all that wrong. Maybe, you know, who knows? So, yeah. So it's I feel like I'm just going in circles, really.
Yeah, no,
You
it does that to you, like,
yeah.
especially like after one date and then they ghost you. You're immediately, well, in any circumstance, when a girl or a guy or someone is like no longer interested, your mind, at least for me, it's like, okay, what did I do wrong? Like that's my first thought. Like, what did I do wrong? What could have I done different? Like, was it how I acted? Was it something I said? You know, and it just kind of eats at you for a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know, going back to expectations, like before a first date, obviously on dating apps you can kind of there's kind of like a filter where you can say like kind of what you're looking for. But like when you meet someone in person, at least me, I'm not gonna go up to, let's say, a cute girl. I'm not gonna go up to her, like get her number, and then right after I get her number, you know, I'm like asking her out, and I'm gonna be like, okay, so what do you expect? Like, do you expect, you know what I mean? Like, that's just, it's just not natural, and I feel like it would scare the girl away.
I also think in one way, like, people don't like to know that they're on a date. You know what I mean? It's like when you're on a date,
to be oblivious.
I don't want to like, because like when you have like date written on like the appointment, it's like there's like this looming expectation, like there has to be something romantic that's going to come out of this, right?
That's true. Yeah.
But you know, if you really want to find somebody you're going to be with for forever, you know, it's probably best to do that in like a more natural circumstance. You know, that's like one thing that when I ask somebody out, I don't really want to say like, let's go on a date. It's like, let's go do something together, because that is essentially a date. I don't want to give them, you know, the impression that I am like expecting something out of this in the end, because I know women don't like to they don't like being assessed for like compatibility on a first date romantically.
Yeah.
They just want to have fun. You know, I think that comes later on. You know what I mean? Like, just the calling it a date means like, you know, there's some that is an expectation of itself. Like, I have to provide something for this guy. You know, and so I think same thing goes with the guy. You know, I have to provide something for her. I have to pursue something. You know, like, by the end of the day, I have to like, you know, kiss her on the cheek at least. You know, I have to hug her or something. Like, you know, if you don't do any of that stuff, like, oh, was it really a date? You know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've talked to people who are particular in using the word date. Like, if you don't say the word date, they're like, is this a date? Like what does he want?
Yeah, I can see, you know.
And then at the same time, like, if you do say date, it kind of like adds pressure.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of, dating's one of those things where it's trial.
Yeah. I think
error,
in most circumstances,
you know?
a man and a woman together, like alone, is mostly more or less going to be a date.
Yeah.
It's going to be a date in the back of the mind. Maybe you can like establish that first, like, this is not a date, you know. But you know, I feel like if it's not mentioned that this is not a date, and it's pretty much a date. You know, I've gone on dates like that before, and I feel like they're a lot more natural than like drawing the line in the sand, saying like, this is a date. You know.
And dates, I know a lot of people view dates themselves very differently.
Yeah.
I have this buddy, he grew up in Brazil, and dating down there is totally different. Like it's like it's a lot more. What's the word I'm looking for? Like they take it more seriously. I don't want to say here in America or North America we don't take dating seriously.
Yeah.
But it's like like when you ask a girl out in Brazil, like it's like pretty serious, and you like take them on a date, and like the expectations are kind of like you only want to date this one girl, even when it's the first date. Whereas here in North America, it's pretty chill. It's like maybe initially you think she's cute or you have a similar interest, and you kind of just want to see where it goes. So it's interesting how different dating can be.
When I was living with my French roommates.
Oh, mon bon.
He told me like it's so Americans and how they ask out people like this is weird because in France, this could just be him. I don't know if it's like all France in general, but like in France, you have your group of friends, and maybe you have several female friends, and then you spend a lot of time with them. You spend like a whole decade knowing each other, and there's not really like a dating process. You've known each other for 10 years, and eventually you have feelings for them. You might think like, okay, well, I think when I get married, there's not really like that dating process, And I think I prefer that, just to marry your best friend, not marry like somebody that you put
not marry sugar mama. Sugar mamas. Now we're gonna talk about sugar mamas. Logan, if you marry sugar mama, just kidding.
They're absolutely.
Well, what is your weekly allowance?
Where do you think I got this from?
Oh, damn. Well, I do want to share one more point about dating, how dating differs. I had a roommate at college, and he is from Ukraine, and they are gentlemen over there in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Like on the first date, he said he always buys the girl like a bouquet of flowers. He like picks them up, they dress up nice, they go out to a nice dinner.
Yeah.
Like he spends a lot of money, like he treats her like a queen on the first date. Yeah. And not saying like you have to do that, and I'm not saying if you don't do that it's bad, but it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, man, like
I've been thinking about that what's up. Recently too, because like when we were like set up for like collabing in this video, like what would I like add to it? I'm thinking like we're in our 20s, we're in our early 20s, so we're still young, but I feel like there's still, and we're technically men, but there's a lot of like men our age that aren't very like they're not men. It's just like
they're boys.
I'm not saying they're boys.
We're men among boys, is what you're saying. Logan.
I'm not saying.
You hear that, ladies? We're men among boys.
but like, get this. It's like
yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of guys that I know that are our peers, our contemporaries, and like when you see them interact with people in like a group or something like that, they still act like they're in high school.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking like really, you're not like
more mature.
Be a mature person, man. Because if you're gonna act like you are like if you're gonna act like you're the football quarterback for the rest of your life, that would be in a very obnoxious relationship to be in. Isn't that cool to be like young, dumb, and broke? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like being young, dumb, and broke is not like a great thing. You want to be young, decently smart and financially stable. That's what men and women should be. They should be in those safe positions, not just like glamorizing being dumb and dressing up like they only shop at Goodwill. Right? Manners maketh man, and boys don't have manners. And I think there's a lot of guys I know that are just kind of aimless that way.
I've been there, and
I think we've all been there.
I'm not gonna.
We're still kind of in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say that I'm the most mature guy out there. There's times of immaturity that come through and whatnot.
Yeah. But
I do agree. I mean, Tylen mentioned that in his third comment is about like, being a gentleman, like kind of growing up and kind of being more mature and obviously respect is like a big priority when it comes to dating. And you want to respect the person that you're interested in, you're going out, you're taking out. And I think that, it has to come from being mature and being disciplined. You know, you can't just be a monkey out there. You know,
Yeah.
thinking that you're so cool. You know,
can't.
walking around
You
and
can't.
because then that leads to you, hurting feelings and being
Absolutely.
prideful, being a douchebag. You know, all those things.
Yeah, don't be a manic pixie dream guy. Ladies, don't be a manic pixie dream girl.
We had a discussion about hurt feelings, and you can't let those hurt feelings from the past ruin the present. You know what I mean, or affect the future.
Absolutely.
You can learn from it, but you don't want it to ruin the present. You know.
I have experiences where I'm kind of still reeling from the effects. You know about this story.
Yeah.
But like that has like seriously distorted my view since like I was 20. It's 2 years later. I don't. It's been more tumultuous than it really needs to be because of that one event.
Yeah.
So, but I'm coming off of it. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Yeah.
But yes, thank you so much for watching. That will be the end. We talked about a lot, and obviously
We sure did.
we are going to be talking more about dating. Heck, we should probably talk about anything.
Yeah.
We can talk about anything. What do you guys want to hear? Logan and I are going to team up. And we're
You're
going to
a
talk.
great expert on Scooby-Doo.
Yes, I am. So we can talk about Scooby-Doo.
I remember when we had my podcast with my Canadian friend. Yeah, I lost those files, but it was
I know,
a good
but the episode never aired.
Yes.
I was on his podcast. Why do I know this?
Yes.
And the episode never aired. We talked about Scooby-Doo for like 30, 40 minutes,
Yeah.
and then it never aired. Again, thank you so much for watching. This has been Logan Burton, my co-host. If you guys like this video, please
Smash that like button.
Smash that
And
like
hit that
button.
notification bell.
Notification bell,
Yeah.
subscribe.
If we can get to 5 likes, you'll be in a raffle for a PS5.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Provided by Logan, of course.
No.
But again, thanks for watching, guys. Peace.
Ciao.